I'm very grateful to you guys for having me. My partner, Ray Nolte, is a resident now in Jupiter. And so I know he's been dying to scout sites down here. And he told me in the car that he did a survey of our office, and he's got about 35% of the people in our office wanting to come down here with him, and it's a tribute to you guys here in Palm Beach. So I just want to give you guys a big shout out. You know, it's an awesome thing that you're doing down here. When you think about New York, it's weather and taxes. We got both of those things wrong. One of them is from God, but the other one is man-made. And what I tell everybody around the country, if you're going to think about taxes as a form of social policy, well, you're going to miss something very big about what's going on in the world, because you see, ultimately, taxes are a price. And when you get the price to a certain point and it reaches that tipping point, then people start to leave and they start to migrate elsewhere because, like it or not, the world that we grew up in, at least the world I grew up in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, is a very different world than the world we're currently living in. This world is a mobile world. This world is a virtual world. And this world is a world where our children are going to feel very, very comfortable living anywhere and being able to do business anywhere in the society. And I really want to applaud the state of Florida and the county of Palm Beach for understanding this and being ahead of the curve, because I do believe that this is the future and this is where things are going. I wanted to segue a little bit and talk briefly about the economy before I invite my good friend Sean to come up here. I just wanted to give you guys a quick insight into the way Skybridge thinks about things and where we sort of see the world going. And I want to take you back to September this past year, where on CNBC, and one of the most nauseating buzzwords that I know is the word taper. You probably hear it every time you're watching television. Actually, the Federal Reserve never used the word taper, but we use it perpetually on TV. Taper, taper, taper. Well, back in September, I was on television, and I know what seat is mine on TV. Can I tell you guys why? There are 4 phone books on my seat, okay? This is the only place in America where I can look the same height as John Najarian and Guy Adami. And so I'm sitting on my phone books, and we're talking about tapering, whether or not someone's going to taper or not taper. I take the view that there would not be any tapering. And then they beam in on a flat screen television some British economist from UBS. Now, I think you guys know this. If you have a British accent in the United States, you're going up 200 IQ points. We know this. And if you have a Brooklyn, Queens accent in the United States, you're down 50. Okay, so I just want to set the stage for you. He's coming in on the flat screen, and he's telling me that the Federal Reserve is going to taper. They're going to begin the process on this next announcement mid-September. He's saying it with that very eloquent British accent. I'm looking at him saying, I don't think that's going to happen. And then to play to my insecurity, he pops the question, were you at the Jackson Hole meeting? Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, that's the big Grand Poobah meeting for the Federal Reserve. I didn't get invited to that. Of course I didn't. I said, no, sheepishly, I wasn't at that. And then he pops in there with, well, I was there. And I'm telling you that the taper is going to happen this month. It'll be a $10 billion reduction in asset purchases. And that didn't happen. I'm going to show you why that didn't happen. Let me get to that slide. Oh, look at that. That's the end of my presentation, ladies and gentlemen. So let me go back and let me show you this one slide, which you may or may not be able to see from the back. But this is an important slide, and when you're thinking about macroeconomic policy in the United States, you should focus on this. You can find this on the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. What that actually is the U6 unemployment number. So that large squiggly line on top, for those of you in the back that really can't see it, that's the real unemployment number in the United States right now. We've all heard the expression that there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And we know this, okay? And back in 1982, we used to factor everything into our unemployment number. But over the years, as the government decided that they would shave things off to make those numbers look better because people have to get reelected, we've coddled it down to a number, that 7.2% number that you hear on the national news. That number doesn't factor everything in. You see, after you stop looking for a job after a year, you fall off it. If you're still looking for a job, but you've anniversaried on a year, you fall off it. If you're at a part-time job at the Walmart, or let's say even a McDonald's, well, you're no longer looking for a job. But you see this number here, the U6 number, that's the real number. That factors all of those people in. And that number, ladies and gentlemen, is at 13.6% as of October 31st, 2013. Put it into context, if this were 1982, we had a recession in 1982, we had 10.2% unemployment. That's the number. If we were using the old statistics and the old metrics, that's the number. And I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are still in a national unemployment crisis. Those are not my words. That's Chairman Ben Bernanke. And so I'm going to make a few predictions before I walk off the stage. Prediction number one, you will not see any tapering anytime soon until we can bring that number down. And you may have read about a paper last week where the Fed is talking about a 5.5% front number as opposed to the 6.5%. And so our prediction is that you won't see any tapering anytime soon until you see that number improve. This is very positive for the stock market, by the way. And this will be positive for large cap U.S. stocks. I got to go to my most fun slide. Hopefully you guys can see this in the back. Everybody see that? That's my most fun slide. Sean, you like that slide? That's the best. Okay, so I'm gonna abruptly segue here. If you can't see that in the back, you need glasses. But if you can see it in the back, yes, that's a straight 60-degree angle coming from under the belt of that man. And at the top it says the perception of hedge fund performance. Now, underneath that, there's that little squiggly, let's call that a flaccid line. And that line is, according to the writer, that line is the reality of the hedge fund industry. And so I love this slide, and I love that cover story. That was June of 2013, because what happens in the American media is that the hedge fund industry, when you do a Rothschild chest for the average person, the hedge fund industry is a pariah. And the media likes to focus on a few things about the industry. The first one is the person that made $1 billion. Now that gets people envious and riled up. And then there's the person that lost $1 billion. There's some joy in that, and the car crashing. And then the thing that I hate the most is the person that stole $1 billion. That's the one that gets the most ratings. And so the industry and the media made $1 billion, lost $1 billion, stole $1 billion, and then, of course, they pick the worst statistics in the industry, and they try to suggest to everybody that, well, you know, the industry is underperforming everybody. One of the reasons why 2024, and this is a prediction I'll make from this podium, Palm Beach County will be one of the financial centers for the hedge fund industry, is that politics actually does matter. Good governance matters. We were talking about the new mayor, but the last two mayors, 20 years of exemplary political leadership in New York, we've got a pretty good city. We've got a low crime rate, we've got a burgeoning property market, and we have very high tourism. All of this, I believe, is a byproduct of very good executive political leadership. And politics does matter, and the fact that people here in Palm Beach County like hedge fund managers and private equity people, unlike perhaps the current mayor, you will see this become a center for this kind of high-tech finance. But I want to point out something about that slide. Again, I'm not sure you can see it in the back, but what I'm trying to suggest in this slide is that that's one aspect of the industry, the hedge fund myth. But on the other side, if you look at the top 20% of the managers in our industry, they're up 23% compounded on an annual basis since 2002. So for 10 years, they compounded out at 23%. Now, Sean at Lighthouse, myself, Ray Nolte at Skybridge, our job is to find those people and put them in portfolios so that we can help our clients reach their actuarial goals. And so I just wanted to point this thing out to you. There's a perception about places and people and things that may or may not be true. The one thing I want to end on is executive political leadership. We know at the federal level, if you have great executive political leadership, the country soars and flourishes. We also know if we have uncertain executive political leadership, there's a certain amount of malaise, if you will, to use an expression from the 1970s. But I'm here to applaud the people of Palm Beach County and the governance here, and to tell you guys that you're going to have a lot of very interesting, very smart, very talented human capital entering this state and this county over the next 10 years, and I hope that Skybridge is a part of it. Thank you very much.
I wanted to talk about 4 things today. One, just a little background on who we are and how long we've been here. Second, talk about why we're here. Third, talk about some of the misperceptions about Florida and the financial industry in Florida. And fourth, talk about financial services, specifically in Palm Beach County. So I was not given an easy task today because following up Anthony is literally like trying to get my children to eat their broccoli after they've had their dessert, but we'll see if I can do it. First thing, just about Lighthouse, just talking about the firm briefly. We manage $7.5 billion in assets. The firm was started down here in Florida in 1999. I joined a family office now called GenSpring, which is still based down here. That was a small firm at the time, and I became the chief investment officer. And from that firm, I founded Lighthouse in 1999. So I moved here in August of 1996. We employ 77 people in total. So we're headquartered here in Palm Beach Gardens, but it's a global business, just like Skybridge. So anything in financial services these days, at least in hedge funds or private equity, is mainly going to be a global business. You're going to need operations both locally and around the globe. So we do have people in New York, in Chicago, in London, and Hong Kong. And I can tell you that the people in our other offices are always envious that we're based here. More and more want to come here, but we need analysis and research in these other parts of the world. We have approximately 1,000 investors in our funds, and they are from all over the globe. So despite being based here in Florida, they really come from every continent. I always joke that I do want to find one investor, one scientist from the Antarctic, so we can include that and say we've got all 7 continents covered. Haven't been able to pull that off yet, but we do have investors around the globe, and it's certainly possible for firms based here in Florida to do that. Just to be honest with everyone as well, when I moved to Florida, I had spent a grand total of 3 days in the state before I moved here in August of 1996. I was attracted to move down here because of the opportunity, and I want to talk a little bit about why we've stayed here. And I think it's been one of the best decisions of my life. If you look at the chart on the left, it just shows the growth rate of Palm Beach County relative to New York and relative to Detroit. One of the key tenets that I believe in is I would rather live in an area that is growing than shrinking. I think that growth promotes opportunities and gives people a chance to explore a lot of different things. In New York, clearly it's grown. It's grown by about 12% over the last 20 years. Florida, Palm Beach County has grown by over 50%. And we can see what's happened to Detroit. So going back to Anthony's comments, leadership, tax rates, politics, they do all matter. And the choices that we make collectively will really determine how Palm Beach County fares in the future. But I would say based on this chart, it's doing very well. The second thing is just the makeup of the population. People think of Florida as a retirement state. Certainly we have our share of retirees. But if you look at the statistics over the last 20 years again, it's actually becoming slightly younger, where the rest of the country is actually aging. So we're starting to get a better mix down in Palm Beach County and in Florida generally, and I think that leads to a more robust culture and community. Switching to some of the direct comparisons, if I can work this, just on taxes, and some of these things are just related to quality of life. And I'm comparing it to New York. I love New York. I have nothing against New York, but I prefer to live here for a few different reasons. One, the commute time. The average commute time over a lifetime, you're going to save about 411 days per year, plus a lot of wear and tear on your body. I want that extra year of life. I think it's important, and I think that time that is used can be spent directly on what you want to spend it on. So whether that's business, a community, family, it is time lost. I don't think anyone truly enjoys commuting. Taxes, we've covered. I didn't realize how stark the differences in taxes had become until we put this graphic together. And that's a huge difference, 12.7% versus income tax, none down here, estate tax is higher, and sales tax higher. Everyone pays sales taxes. We all need to consume, eat, do all those sorts of things, and that difference in 3% makes a huge difference to a working class family. The weather we covered. We all know about the great weather down here. It's hotter in New York in the summer than it is down here. And the cost of living, this is really important. New York has an advantage over Palm Beach County in potatoes, in Coke and Pepsi, and in Nike shoes. I don't know whether that's New Yorkers eat more starch, drink a lot of sugary soda, and then work it off with their Nikes. But for some reason, they were blessed with lower prices in these areas. I think in things that really matter, rental prices down here in Palm Beach County, 52% lower. Restaurant prices 30% lower, and groceries 13% lower. So the biggest expenses that people incur, which are going to be housing and food, substantially lower down here in Palm Beach County. Number of NBA titles, had to throw this in. So New York only has 2 since 1946. We have 3 since 1988. So we're doing well down here. Now, that's it, Anthony. We're trying to convince you to come down here, so we got to rub it in a little bit. One of the things that you hear about Florida that we all come up against, and something that I think as a community we have to do a better job, is dispelling some of the misperceptions about Florida and about the community we have here. I think continuing to combat some of these thoughts will help attract more firms down here. First thing is the state is filled with crooks and hucksters. I think there was an image of Florida, particularly in the securities brokerage industry, that wasn't necessarily positive. I think that has been cleared up, continues to be cleared up, but it's up to all of us to display good character, integrity, honest business dealings, and everyone is responsible for that in this room, and I think that's something we continue to overcome every day. The second thing is that talent acquisition is difficult. I think talent acquisition comes from creating the right opportunity, from creating the right work environment, creating the right quality of life. We have attracted over 70% of our staff from outside of the state of Florida. We've been able to convince them this is a great place to live. They've been educated. I love the fact that they have different experiences, that they bring something different to the community. But we do have the businesses here and the leadership here to show people what the opportunities are and to attract them to Florida. The land of the retirees, that's changing. This county has changed so much since I've been here in the 18 years. I grew up just outside of Chicago, a suburb called Wheaton, Illinois. And I can tell you that life here, while it's very different from a weather perspective, it is very similar to where I grew up, better in a number of ways. I love Chicago, love the state of Illinois, but I am very, very happy to live down here. It is not the land of retirees. It continues to be a land of opportunity and population growth. So wherever there's growth in population, I think there's opportunities. The education is not great. This is my favorite one. This is the only philosophical statement I will probably make. I think that the education of my children is up to me and up to my child. We have phenomenal schools down here. We have phenomenal public schools. We have phenomenal private schools. I could not be happier with the education that my children have received down here. I think they have a broad range of education choices, whether it's public or private. I think when you look at the testing results, they're very similar from around the country. So I think a lot of education comes back to the desire of the student. I think we have fantastic teachers down here, but I think parents also need to take responsibility for their children's education until they're 18, and then they get to make their own choices. The last thing is there's not a critical mass of finance-related firms. We continue to try, and Kelly and her team have done a phenomenal job of bringing firms down here, explaining the benefits of what we're doing, and continuing to promote the state. We do have a great critical mass of financial firms down here, and again, we are all representatives of that community, and if we want to attract more of these firms down, then we need to be good ambassadors. In summary, because I promised to keep this to 10 minutes or less, I think financial firms have a bright future down here. There's more and more talk of having firms down here. Anthony has proven that. The reasons are, again, the tax climate's changing, the political climate continues to change. Those do matter up north. We have a great climate down here. We have a great culture. And again, I am very proud to be part of this community, and thank you for your time.